Hello, welcome to class number 3 of this 4-part series. This class is focused on sensuality, and this is going to be a great class if you are, for example, like you've had a busy day, you don't feel yourself, you can't feel yourself, you want to feel more of your aliveness, and maybe your attention has been directed elsewhere. This will be a great practice in coming back to yourself. And to overview the first two classes, which if you haven't seen those, please go back and watch those first because they lay the foundation for this work actually. Um, what I have really found in my own experience is that when I have some kind of structure in my body that I'm working with, for example, the structure that you've been given in class 1 and class 2, that structure actually creates a foundation for more freedom. So sometimes we want to come into a practice and just like, I just want to move freely and I just want this to feel good, and that's totally fine. But imagine also and play with me here that maybe this structure is actually a foundation that is helping you root and helping you to ground, and that is then allowing greater freedom of your own erotic template, your erotic essence, your aliveness. In the last class, we talked about really creating a container, a physical container that houses this energy. And that's actually so important because if we can't hold this energy in ourselves, then maybe we have an experience here or there, but the energy doesn't change us. And this is the most transformational, most potent energy on earth. It is the most powerful energy available to us, is the energy of our own life force, our eros, the intelligence of life that is just begging us, please open to me so that I can move through you. So those first two classes set a foundation to help the body come into greater freedom. And the same is true with this idea of sensuality. So sensuality, I'm going to invite you to look at it in a similar way, that when you feel safe and rooted in your body, when you've created, so for example, that first class, untucking the tail, grounding into your own sense of safety. I'm here. I'm safe. I'm held. Then the second class, creating more expansion in your body, lifting the ribs away from the hips. I've got my own back and I am connected to something greater than myself. That is a foundation, a phenomenal foundation to then kind of knock at the door of this incredible energy, universal, primordial force, a goddess, whatever you want to think of it, to knock on the door and say, okay, my container is ready. I'm ready to hold you, and please show me, please guide me. And that is actually something that I really love to do in practices. I haven't done it in the first two classes, but I love to start with grounding in a kind of intention and a kind of prayer. So let's do that together for this class, because this is a really special class in that we're really starting to open to this particular flavor, your particular flavor of life force, your erotic pulse. So I'm going to invite you to, again, if you haven't, highly recommend a block, finding your sit bones on a block so that you can let the tail be free and have more space in your pelvis without clenching your back. And then with the tail end tucked, lift through the back body. Use your breath to fill all four corners of your rib, the front, both sides, the back. And then I'm going to invite you. So we just kind of went down to the pelvis, we went up to the heart, and then I'm going to invite you back down into the belly. So if you can keep a sense of opening through the ribs and the chest, then what I'm going to invite you to do is soften your belly and bring your hand there. Now, this might not be what you expect to be associated with sensuality is a soft belly, because we have so much narrative around sensuality and sexuality being about how you look and being about drawing the belly in and oh, tight core, right? And for me, I'm going to offer you this. My deepest experiences of myself and my own sensuality have come when I am in deep harmony with myself, when I am in deep acceptance of myself, and when I am consciously looking at these places where I want to contort or be different, and I'm offering those places acceptance and saying, you don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to look a certain way. You're welcome here as you are. So, soft belly, bring your hands to your belly and join me in this intention for today's class. Take a deep breath. May this class be an honor. May the fruits of this class all be consecrated to that enormous force that we call the feminine, that we call Eros, the goddess. Take another deep breath, and on the exhale, can the belly soften even more? And so we offer this class and ask that this energy fill our bodies, fill our hearts, fill our pussies, so that each of us can connect with the thread of our own unique life force. And may we cultivate an inner feeling of self-acceptance, and knowing that we don't need to be anything other than exactly what we are in this moment in order to open to who we are. I'm going to invite you to open your eyes. And that's going to be a big part of this as we relax and soften the belly today, is can my orientation to sensuality be from a relaxed state, be from a self-accepting state, be from an internal state rather than an external state of what does this look like, or what should I be doing, or I want this to feel or look different. Can it be totally internally oriented? And that is my intention for all of us in this class. So I'm going to invite you to move your hands onto from your belly onto your hips and hold your hip bones. And I'm going to invite you to really press in like you're pressing into the pelvis. This is a move that is often done in childbirth, actually. The woman has her hips pressed in. And I want you to, with that same kind of honoring of childbirth, that same kind of anticipation of welcoming in something powerful in between your legs, can you hold your hip and breathe into your pelvis? Keep your eyes open. And I invite you here to feel the depth of your holding, like feel the sensation of that. But also don't go so far in that you forget about the external world. Can you stay outside and inside? To invite in a real sense of grounding, a real sense of I'm here, this is me, this is my body, this is my pelvis. And then change and bring your hands now. You can bring them wherever feels comfortable, but I'm actually going to do a full pubic hold here. So I'm holding the mound of Venus. I'm holding my pubic bone in one hand, and I'm holding my sacrum and my tail in the other hand. Sometimes for healing to happen, and this is on all levels, this is energetic, physical, emotional. Sometimes for healing to happen, all we need to do is go to that place that we want to put our attention on and say, I'm here. I'm here. Sometimes these spots that are tight or holding emotion, holding pain, sometimes they just want to be seen. They want to be recognized. Notice what happens in your belly. Notice what happens in the pelvic diaphragm. I'm here. And let's go back to the belly here. And holding your belly, I'm just going to invite you that whatever comes up in the practice, that is the practice. So if you're able to find a place of acceptance, if you're able to find a place of self-love, that's wonderful. If you're not able to find that, that's okay. You get to be exactly where you are in this practice. So holding your womb, holding your belly, offer that to yourself. However, life is being experienced by me right now is perfect. It's just how it is. I don't need to like it. I don't need to agree with it. But can the container of your own body and your own auric field get so big that you can actually hold whatever it is that you're experiencing? I'm going to invite you here to start to breathe into your pelvis. Notice the breath going in and up and down and out. And ideally, and this can trip some people up sometimes because we're so used to breathing in and kind of drawing up into the the thoracic diaphragm. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but this diaphragm that we breathe with, that's in our thoracic. And what I want you to actually do is to breathe and let the belly expand and soften on the inhale. The breath and the belly should actually fill. You should get wider on the inhale. And then on the exhale, there's a very natural contraction of the belly going in and the pelvic diaphragm slightly moving up. And start to connect with the felt sense of your own pelvis, expanding on the inhale, gentle drawing up on the exhale. So what do you feel here? Do you feel any parts of your pelvis? Do you feel the perineum? Do you feel the vulva resting on the floor or your block? Can you feel the internal vaginal canal opening as you inhale? Can you feel it drawing up and in as you exhale? And let your attention really rest down in your pelvis, the seat of your power. Press your knees forward isometrically to feel the tail go back. The belly lengthens as you do that. Try to let it soften even as it lengthens. So sometimes the tendency might be to tighten as the belly lengthens. Can you keep it soft? And then lift the back of the heart, lift and expand, widen the side ribs, fill the front of your heart. And we're going to start here by moving in a symbol that has a lot of potency. It's a feminine symbol. It's a symbol of feminine intelligence, which is the circle. So I'm going to invite you to keep your hips rooted. They don't need to stay still, but keep them rooted. And then bring a circular motion into the chest. Side, front, back, side. And imagine that your pelvis, your pussy, and that is the word that I use often for the pelvis. For me, it has this great resonance of both the meaning and the erotic reality of the pelvis. So imagine your pussy as like this fire, right? This source of incredible mystery, incredible feeling. And that fire is like you're stoking the fire as you move the body in this way. And here to help keep the chest lifted and moving up and away from your hips, you can keep your hands in dome shapes, your fingertips just touching lightly on your knees. So what that does is create some buoyancy through the elbows, through the armpits, helps you keep a lift. Because as much as we want to connect energetically with the frequency of Eros, we also have this opportunity to bring in deeply therapeutic healing movement into the body as we do that. And change direction if you haven't already. And if you feel any crunching at all in the low back, check in with the legs. Are my legs activated? Is my tail untucked? And then is there enough space between my ribs and my hips? And the pelvis, we're barely moving the pelvis, but can you connect with that drum, that fire of your erotic essence that really is stoking that same feeling through your whole body? Or at least it has that potential. So maybe you feel that drum or that purr moving up into your body. Maybe you don't, and that's fine too. Let the structure support freedom in your body. And then release the arms, and we'll move our attention back down to the hips. And here, especially if you're on your block, you might not have a whole lot of range of motion, and that's really okay. You actually barely need to move to really feel the effects of this practice. So the idea that the bigger the movement, the bigger the sensation is actually not, doesn't apply here. So move into a hip circle here. And this might feel really natural. This might feel really unnatural. I remember when when I first started to move my hips, it felt like the most unnatural thing ever. So if you're wanting a little guidance here, you can think, okay, the pelvis goes forward, forward, side, back, side. And there will be a little bit of tucking of the tail, and that's okay. And now with the hips moving, lift your chest. Soften your belly. And notice if there's clenching, if there's a tendency to want to draw the belly in. Don't judge that, but also bring your attention, bring your inner gaze back to how it feels. Go back to your internal orientation. And let any residual movement here through the shoulders or the head or the neck, let it happen. Hmm. Okay, and then release that. Notice if there's any crunching in the low back. If there is, lift the ribs, untuck the tail. And actually, we can do a bit of that here. Bring your arms out, and we're going to do a bit of a sway. So knees forward to unfurl the tail and lift the hips or the ribs away from the hips. Bring your arms out. Imagine there's like a umbrella underneath your armpit, and we're going to sway over to one side. So the hip and the if you're doing the same side as me, the right hip and the right rib are actually moving in opposite directions. And it's creating a lengthening here, and that might feel really good. And then other side. And can you stay really connected, really rooted to your pelvis throughout the movement? Let the neck follow. It's like you're arcing over your shoulder, ear over the shoulder. And I'm not even actually moving my arms per se. I'm just letting them flow with my ribs, with my chest. And then I'm going to invite you here to just rock a forward and a back rock. And I invite you as you come forward to open your throat. Feel the length of the belly. The belly is lengthening as you move forward here. Soften the belly. And then come back. And here, I invite you to feel or perceive that this warm, potentially, however you experience it, this energy of your pelvis is really irradiating through your body. And what do your hands do? What do your arms want to do when you feel, when you open to your own life force? And are there any sounds that want to come through? And then let that move and transition into a free flow of movement. And the guidance that really supports me here, that I find really helpful for my students, is to really think, how would I move as I feel? So if I'm tracking the sensation of my body, and I move with it, what opens? And this is a tricky spot, I'll just say, because it is really easy to start to either come into really habitual movement patterns that just feel old and familiar, or B, to start to move into the spectrum of performance, where it's like, oh, I just, maybe if you're a dancer or you're a yoga person, finding a kind of the gaze moving to the external. And so I really invite you to bring that back in, bring your gaze inward, bring the gaze inward and sense and feel for yourself. Let this be an exploration of the peculiarity, the specificity of your own life force, even if it looks maybe a little bit weird. And go slow enough that you can feel what is moving. That's often the thing that can happen is we move too fast and we actually stop being able to access that feeling. And keep the breath moving in and out of the pelvis. Okay. Now come on to your hands and your knees here. And we're going to continue with this notion of moving as you feel. But I want you to set up the foundation first. So press the tops of the feet into the floor. Press your knees forward to shift your hips back. Thigh bones go back, sit bones widen. And then fill your heart as you come forward. And this is a great posture for most people to really soften the belly. So once you find that foundation, begin to move in a way that feels alive for you. And to get the belly soft, stick your tongue out and go. Do that a few times. With the belly soft and open, then bring the attention back down into your hips. And you can, again, come into this idea of side, front, side, back. A kind of grinding of the hips, a kind of hip circle. With the wrists And the arms get tired, you can always come down onto your forearms and find a sway in your hips. And can you keep the legs engaged so that there's a bit of pulsing backwards so that the sit bones stay open. And then come back into a hip circle, opposite side as before. And I really invite you to find the edge of your own turn on here. You're moving, you're in your animal body, you're alive. Can you feel the electricity of that? Can you feel the sensuousness of that? Can you feel the power in that resting in between your legs? Oh, oh. And find your pulse again here and keep the form, but don't fixate on it. Let your wild body really come into play. Feel the pleasure of each movement, whatever is available to you. And if it's actually not, you're not identifying it as pleasure, maybe it feels more like pain or annoyance or something quote unquote negative, can you be so deeply with that experience? Can you be and move with whatever is alive? And come back to the hip circle like you're stoking your own fire. You're stoking your own flame. Change direction, even out both sides. And come onto your back. Now, on your back, feet on the floor, can you press your feet isometrically forward and then back and grab your glutes and lift them up? So, that tendency of bringing the belly down, can you, without straining, lift your glutes and keep the legs rooted and active? And then from here, the belly ideally is higher than the pubic bone, so the belly is long and soft. Lift your ribs a bit away from your hips if you're feeling a bit crunched here. And then I'm going to invite you to continue those hip circles. Front, side, back, side. Front, side, back, and side. Breathing into your pelvis. And opening to that feeling of turn on within you. To that fire that you're stoking in between your legs. And with your breath, you're moving it through your whole body. So maybe it feels more concentrated, that feeling of turn on and pleasure in your pelvis. But with your breath, can you bring it up into your chest and your shoulders and your hands and your fingertips? Can you breathe it down into your legs, your knees, your feet? And even out both sides. One side might feel more natural, one might feel more clunky, and that's okay. Trying to even it out. And then help your breath, this idea of your breath and breathing this erotic flame through all of your cells. Facilitate that with your own touch. So it's like you are not just breathing this energy into the corners of your body, you're actually caressing your body to help that movement of energy. I'm going to invite you here to stay here and find stillness, but breathe into your pussy. And let the breath move all the way up your heart and your throat. That you feel this inner movement, this inner light moving up and opening your whole body. Opening the throat, opening the shoulders, the clavicle, And stay here, feeling your own aliveness, feeling all of the sensations, everything available to you here. Now, that completes this practice, the physical component of the practice. What I really invite you to do is to practice containing this energy. So, the tendency, you might be feeling a lot of pleasure, you might be feeling turned on. So, the tendency might be to go and expel this energy. You might want to go and have an actual orgasm. You might want to go and put this energy somewhere. In fact, sometimes this energy can feel, when we're pushing up the edges of our container, it can feel uncomfortable. We might pick a fight with someone. We might want to just off gas. What I really invite you to do is practice holding this energy within you, not spilling it, not giving it to someone, not just quickly trying to get rid of it, but hold it. You may want to take a few minutes for yourself. You may want to journal. You may want to meditate. Give yourself some time to integrate this energy. And in doing so, really expand the container. Thank you so much for joining me today for this third practice. The next practice is a practice of self expression. So once we have untucked the tail, opened the heart, softened the belly, then the animal, the primal intelligence, the feral brilliance of this life force can start to be communicated and shared. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I'll see you in the next.